Yeah. Hi. Hi. Hi, everybody. So just a sec. Yeah. So now we are live. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for joining. So this is today we have an interesting session about customer lifetime value. And this is basically like what we do and what's our main promise. And for customer lifetime value, we start with we will today in this webinar we will look at like how to calculate customer lifetime value, what are the different models to calculate customer lifetime value, because there are 7 8 ways to calculate customer lifetime value and still it's not clear for everybody. And there is also like maximize your customer lifetime value, so like how you maximize your customer lifetime value, what kind of models to use, or how to get the numbers. So that's everything we will look into this webinar. So let's get started. And so this is what's customer lifetime value. So customer lifetime value in the simplest term, it's like how valuable this customer is for you in a lifetime. So that's the simplest definition in the layman term, that how valuable is this customer. Now how we calculate is depends from business to business and also the model, business model. So if it's a subscription model, it's calculated differently. If it's in this our D2C or in e-commerce, it's calculated differently. And in this, basically how we calculate is that we look at the customer, then we multiply it's like a average order value into repeat purchase frequency. So if your average order value is like $50 and you know that people will buy like 2 times in next 6 months or a year, then you just 2 into 50 is 100. So your customer lifetime value is 100. So that's the simplest model, and we don't recommend that model because that's highly misleading, and it can be troublesome for to go through that model. But that's the simplest definition. But it's always that how valuable that customer is for the business and how much value customer generates during his lifetime. That's the key question. Now we need to work backward toward that question. Instead of focusing on the formula, focus on the question first and then come up with a formula to justify or like to predict that. So next, little bit complicated than that is customer lifetime value. Then we just reduce the cost and cost and delivery cost and marketing cost. So acquisition plus delivery is deducted from there. So it's more like what you say about contribution margin. So contribution margin also like takes the product revenue minus cost minus marketing. In this also, like customer lifetime value is that we are trying to extrapolate that customer lifetime value, but we are detecting the marketing, acquisition cost, and delivery cost. Now, the challenge with this is that the marketing cost will be in the future, because you don't know how much you will be spending on the user. Like it's in the B2B space or in any other space, it's like a one time acquisition spend. But in e-commerce, every subsequent purchase will can also lead to a like a purchase, or subsequent purchase will lead to a cost to the company. So it's not it's not just that you have to spend on acquisition, but there might be a scenario where you have to spend on the acquisition, but you also have to spend on acquisition and retargeting email program, or giving the discount to the user. So coming to the next part is like, what's the problem with the LTV model? So there are there have been multiple articles around it, but basically from my experience, the main problem lies with the promise of future. So first is the promise of future, that it's like a dreamland, that your $100 LTV will arrive at certain point, which might not be the true for most of the brands, because there can be competition, there can be like mass market disruption, there can be anything which can disrupt that promise. Second is like blended. So blended tend to have lots of issue, because like how you view customer lifetime value, that's becomes the like, where are you using customer lifetime value? If you are using customer lifetime value for your marketing and justifying your CAC LTV ratio, or like marketing cost, that we have spent because the customer is worth $100, so we can spend like $60 on acquiring this customer, then the problems becomes that the customer is might not worth $100 in the start, and even in the future there is no guarantee that it will reach to 100. It might like a customer in its lifetime might only spend like $80, and you end up like a non-profitable customer. So that's why it's important to know that it has a promise of future. Second is the blended, where the blended is like you are looking the LTV at the from the acquisition, also from like new customer, old customers purchase data. You are including the organic and social channels into that. You are including email channel into it, and then you are promising a blended LTV, and you are taking that blended LTV and spending that on Facebook. So what brands do is like they calculate the blended LTV, and then they get to a number that the customer is worth this, and we can spend this much. But eventually, if you look at the order, the order might be like you are spending way too much to acquire the customers which are coming from Facebook. And because of the law of averages, and because of the averages, what happens that during the longer duration, like as you scale or like increase the budget on the paid marketing, so the most of the customers will start looking like your the costliest customer or like loss making customer, because your average will get changed, and you will get more and more like new customers. Organic and this or the blended will take its time to scale, but paid you can scale like immediately or within a week. So you will have more customers who are being acquired at a loss, and the organic channel is not able to support that. So that's becomes a challenge. Then it's yeah just like a justifying bad marketing. So bad marketing is like where uh, this I think the LTV is mostly used to justify bad marketing, that we are overspending, we know that, but the customer will buy in the future, and we know that because the lifetime value is such, so we are able to afford to spend that much today. So that's the fallacy, and that's basically a bad marketing, where you are hedging your like loss in the like hedging the future, like a present for the future sort of. That's uh, and that's the last point is also about like cost of capital. So cost of capital is also because if you like elongate the cycle, like if you take like 1 year window or like 2 years window, so for acquisition you have to put up the amount as of now, like today, and you will be getting a return on that after like a year or this thing. So even with a interest rate like 5 to 6% or like any kind of inflation, you will be able to like there is a like a depreciation which is happening on the capital investment. So in that sense it becomes very uh, problematic that you are hedging and betting everything which is somewhere in the future, and you're justifying it with the capital today, and LTV becomes that the like a justification tool. And that's the problem with the LTV. So if you talk about like the nuanced formula, that how much is the this customer is worth to our business, then this is basically like a predictive LTV cost with cost of capital. So over here we are taking like purchase minus direct cost, but we are also considering like probability of retention. So it's not like a standard retention. So customer, there is a probability, because retention is also in the future, like it's unknown. So you don't know that this retention will come, so there is a probability angle over there. Then cost of capital, like we discussed, so it will also the capital will be invested today, and like returns will come in the future. And then acquisition cost also becomes like needs to be deducted from that. And also retention probability, I think the discounts also needs to be taken care of this. So some models have discount also, because with retention probability, it's not that you are just getting a retention, you might have a like a probability of retention, but also you might need to spend or like discount or like give repeat buyer discount or like a repeat purchase discount or like a subscription discount or loyalty. So it might have a cost to get that repeat purchase. So it's not that you have just like acquired for one time and it will pay for itself and the customer will automatically come on the website and buy again and again. It's rarely happens like that. It's mostly that you have to chase them, you have to bring them back, you have to, because they have been bombarded from other locations also. Like your competition will be spending like targeting these the same customers, maybe their problem got over. So 100 things can happen, so you need to be on your toe and like you need to get that customer. It will be cheaper than the acquisition, but still it will be something, like it will not be zero. So that's the idea. And this is like the best display, or like best presentation of how you should calculate like LTV model. So simple is like a average order value into repeat purchase. That's the simplest model, and to repeat frequency. Second is like linear, because it goes and then it's like curves down. Then you might have a clustering effect, because like we discussed the blended angle. So blended, it might have a different LTV for your paid marketing versus like whatever you acquired from social, whatever you acquired from Google, or like whichever came from reference. So if someone is coming from referral, they might have a high customer lifetime value, because there is a trust, there is a like some referral, and there might be, and the customer you acquire on Facebook, like under $10, like under $50 customer, like on the $50 product with heavy discount, for the probability of that user coming back and generating $100 LTV might not be the same. So that's why the blended becomes a big challenge, that you never go for a blended LTV. You always ask LTV one duration, like what's my like 90-day LTVs, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, 180, or like so typically like 90, 180, and 365 days LTV. Second, you ask on the channel, like it's the social channel LTV or paid channel LTV, or like your referral channel LTV or direct LTV, or there is a branding LTV. So LTV will highly vary from channel to channel. And third is also the product side of things, because LTV for a like a $50 product line. So if it's not applicable for CAC, D2C brands, but if you are running a marketplace or you have like multiple price points, then it makes a lot of difference, because you might have like a $50 product, you might have a $500 product. So your LTV will very different, and different for both the product lines also. So LTV, so that's the problem with the blended part, that you need different clarity around the days, the product range, and the channel. So these are the three levers, three segments we use. But I think that will give you a fair idea. I think the channel one is the biggest one. Product, you can leave it for some time, and days one. So days one is definitely related to your cash flow. So we'll come to that. And next, coming in the action. So in action, if we look at LTV, so this is a sample data where we are looking at LTV from a this year perspective, 90 days, 120 days, 180 days. So that's like, and if you take the full year perspective, then what's the LTV will look like. So if you look at the total sales, then you look at the orders. So everything blue is like assumption, like in standard stats. So everything blue is in this, rest is like formula driven. And total sales and orders, this is all assumptions, this is dummy data. But once you get the AOV, you get this customer, then there is a purchase frequency. Now it's might be the same customer, but they will eventually buy like down the road. So eventually your customer lifetime value will keep on changing, and in the terms of the customer lifetime value will keep on increasing if you elongate the duration. Like that's a simplest form, but that's not advisable, because especially for if you are heavily reliant on paid marketing, then I would highly recommend to go for like 60-day LTV. At least you should be able to realize your LTV within 60 days, because otherwise it will become very tough to scale anything, like in the terms of budgets or scale store, or yeah. And also it's all too much hedging on the future, so it's very unstable, that if you hedge on like 180-day LTV, until you are like a venture backed company, or with lots of capital, access to capital, then that kind of a game plan would not be advisable. Mostly for startups is like 60 days, it's good enough, like 6-figure, 7-figure e-commerce brand. So, and once you have this like LTV, so LTV, as you can see, so it's a start at like 108, then it's gradually increased to 132. But I would say to use this like 104 as your base, and play everything around that. Like you just divide, or like use this number into your paid marketing, and try to get a break even, at least break even on this number. I would say like get break even on the first purchase. Like like recommend or preach like first order profitability. But even if you're not able to, at least get a 60-day or 90-day profitability. More than that, it's highly unstable business model. And CAGs and this, and then you have a net and like a contribution margin. So CAC is also this like CAC is gradually increasing. So it's like a blended, but it's like also gradually increasing depending on the this part. Like as because eventually the discount. So there is a discount angle to it also, and there is like additional marketing capital which is spent on the user. So that's why the CAC tend to increase. Past year, it's I think but it's typically the CAC tend to increase. Like you can like call it CAC, you can call it marketing cost, but eventually, if you calculate like 180 days LTV, so eventually you have to take considering the retention cost as well into the picture. So that's like in this the takeaway. Apart from that, uh, yeah, now once you like we discuss the nuance of LTV. So how is this calculated, what's the weakness, and what are the different models, and you can go deep into that. But like I think once you get to the segmented level, or you are able to look at from the channel, or like from a duration perspective, I think that's more than good enough for most of the brands. Now how we improve that, like so that's the second part of the webinar also. And like as a main important question, that once we calculate the LTV, so what's our framework to improve that? And in our experience, how we work on LTV is we start with the like a PCC framework. So we call it PCC framework, which also has like PCCO sort of. So we look at the product. So product is basically we look at the product level maximization. So whatever we can try to increase the value of the product, or like net revenue you can call it. But it's also how we structure the product side of things. Second is like customer value. Customer value will include your everything related to the customer plan. And it's like channel agnostic. Like so we are not like sometimes we put communication into that, but like in this framework how we have structured is like you look at the product first, then you look at the like your customer, you look at the each stages of the customer, you devise a strategy for that. And once that is sorted, then you like collect or broadcast that strategy across multiple channels. Because otherwise what happens that it becomes too much channel centric, like it will become too dependent on email, but you are not looking at SMS, you are not looking at the website, you are not looking. So the strategy tend to be less effective. Also it doesn't create a nice omni channel experience. So from a omni channel experience, or from a this like optimization perspective, from a multi like a better strategy execution, create a strategy outside the channel, create the central strategy for communication or like for customer, and then communicate it across multiple touch points depending on the touch points and this thing. So it's more like a CDP approach, that we look at the product, then we look at the customer data, and then once the customer data we cut and like make plans and like build a strategy. And once the strategy is locked, then we execute on the communication side of things. So like we broadcast that across multiple channels. So that's typically our approach in like how to work on customer lifetime value. And in this it's like a product, customer, and communication. So you have to sort your product layer, then you have to sort your customer layer, and then you have to like broadcast it on your channels. And channels can be like a channel specific, and it can be like centralized also. But typically every channel have its nuances, and it's like different A/B test program, different integration, different capabilities, different word limits. So it's best to keep the channel outside the strategy. And next is your we start at the product value maximization. So we look at the product price. So whatever we can do to increase the price or decrease, or like find the best price. So best price tends to be like decrease is also important, because price like if we decrease the price, then it might lead to a higher conversion rate, which might justify your like reduce your CAC. So price sensitive like price tests are not just about like increasing prices. It can be profitable to decrease the prices. So that's why the price This is very important. Second is like your average order value, which you have to like increase as you go along. And there is like a cross sell bundles, and like we have discussed this multiple times on this webinar. And is third is like product discounting. So product discounting also is a very important framework, where what kind of discounts you are able to offer, what kind of deals you are able to create, and how does it relate back into the margin. So product finding the product discount or the perfect discount for your brand is a iterative process, and typically we say that once a quarter we need to test all the offers. Otherwise during Black Friday or during this thing, we will not be able to get the right offer. So product discount is tend to be like the part of the product value maximization. Then there is a product profit analysis. So profit analysis is also very important, because uh, it helps you with the returns and what kind of products are making profit. So eventually, if you are selling like 10 products, I can bet like that, just by Pareto law or like 80-20 rule, that you can always remove 20% of the products, like minimum. And those 20% might not be making you money. They might have heavy returns. The customer, if the customer buys those, they are not coming back. So after 6 months, I can confidently say that at least you can remove like to 20% of your product range, or maybe more. But product profit analysis is very important, because you need to see what kind of products is driving the maximum returns, what kind of products is driving the maximum profit, what kind of products are driving the maximum products customer satisfaction. So you need to figure this on the product level. So that's the product level analysis. Next is your customer value maximization. So customer value maximization, we again look at the funnel from a customer perspective. So it starts from non-buyer, then buyer, one-time buyer, then repeat and lapsed. And how we structure this is like in terms of strategy. It's you look at a single piece and then you create a strategy around it, and it's not about creating the strategy within the communication. So we try to keep communication out of strategy. So if you are thinking about non-buyers, so you are not thinking about email marketing or direct mail or SMS. That will come into the future, like that will eventually come, but that will be tackled later. It's more about what kind of a non-buyer like channels you are trying to target. So non-buyer is mainly from a strategy perspective, that what kind of strategy we are pushing for non-buyers. And non-buyers strategy is like what's your welcome offer will be there, like what kind of a deal or discount will be there for new buyer, what's the promise for new buyers, how you are pushing, what kind of reviews or what kind of messaging is working, or what's the best seller we need to push for getting the non-buyers to convert. Once the one time buyer is there, then there are two things. One is like how much we can extract from that user in the terms of like getting a review, getting a refer, not refer. It might be tough to get a refer at that stage, but from one time buyer, it's mostly around how we maximize their journey and how we get them to buy again. So it might be value realization, that we get them to like understand the product, like use the product, and then go for a like a repeat purchase. And repeat purchase or recurring will include your loyalty program or your membership or your subscribe and save. So what's the brand plan or like a approach to keep a recurring subscription, or like a increase the recurring revenue. And fourth is the lapsed part. So what's the plan to keep the lapse? So it can include the win back, it can also be SMS campaign, it can be around a some kind of a incentive to come back, it might be a review program or a NPS or feedback. And also to understand the stages, like why the customer bought the with like why the customer didn't buy, why the customer didn't buy again, or why did they buy for the first time, and what's is leading them to like buy again and again. And if they have stopped buying, that what's leading them to stop buying. So those questions also comes into the like customer value maximization. And it's agnostic of the channel. So it's not dependent on the channel, it's more about the the overall structure. And next is like communications. Once we have the structure in place, like for the customer stages, and we have like a strategy that what's we'll be doing. So we don't need to like do everything in like what I meant is like we don't need a loyalty program and a subscription program. We can use a single automation or like single channel or single strategy, and work toward to improve that customer like a recurring program. So that can be done. So you don't need everything in over here. You just need like one or two strategies which works best to keep a customer like on the recurring plan, or like a repeat keep the repeat buy high, or what's your strategy to convert from one time buyer to a repeat buyer. So those uh, is more important than to follow any new like a shiny object syndrome, where you look at anything new, any so in loyalty, some brands go for community, some brands go for like sustainability, some brands can go for like a more value based or like a mission based program, and that everything works so it's not about there is a single part to success. It's like dependent on the what's is available and what kind of messaging we can do to get those users on the platform. So, and next is the communication side of things. So communication value maximization is more about once we have the strategy, then it's just about like the channel, and we can go deep into the channel, but every channel needs its own like a separate webinar. But it's basically the main takeaway is that we create the product level strategy, and like we value maximize the value of the product. Then we look at the customer stages, and maximize the value at the customer level, and then we include get into the communication side of things. And communication tend to be like the last, and the strategy is not like a thought or like a discuss or like structured with the communications. So that's the main takeaway. And for our for the listeners, what we have is like our promise, like what we do as an agency. So we increase customer lifetime value by 10 to 30%, and we employ like everything which you we have discussed, like the whole LTV, whole the PCC framework, and everything we use to drive up the customer lifetime value. And we have done it for multiple brands, and it's basically it has performed very nicely or like it has performed, we have performed like shared delivered good results for multiple brands, and mainly on customer lifetime value. And we are able to get that result within 30 to 90 days window. And yeah, and these are some brands we work with. And thank you thank you for watching. And uh, to improve your customer lifetime value, get in touch with us. So thank you.